By starting to introduce ourselves. Thank you everyone for being here. We're going to go over the virtual career fair and some tips and hints today, but we're going to start by an introduction, and I'm going to be real quick with my introduction because I'm sure many of you guys are probably more interested in our employer here. But my name is Jessica DeLello, and I'm the career development specialist, which is kind of like a career counselor here at Career Services, and I work with students in behavioral and social science pathways. And then Danica, I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Danica Ryan. I'm also a career development specialist, and I work with students in world languages and literature, liberal arts and humanities, and visual and performing arts. And you all are probably here to meet Carly, and I will let her introduce herself.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jessica and Danica, for having me today. I'm Carly Salerno. I'm the Director of Inside Sales at Monumental Sports and Entertainment. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with Monumental, we are the ownership group for the Washington Wizards, Washington Capitals, Washington Mystics, and a whole laundry list of other teams, as well as owning Capital One Arena in downtown DC. So I oversee our entry-level sales department. I do a ton of recruiting. I think about 50% of my job is recruiting, which is probably one of the reasons they asked me here today. I do a ton of interviews, both virtually, in person, on the phone. I meet with tons of students, go to a ton of college campuses every year. So looking forward to meeting all of you guys here today and hopefully giving you some tips to use over the next couple of weeks, as I know you guys have a career fair coming up.
Thanks, Carly. All right, so just to get things started, this is how it's going to work. A couple housekeeping things to begin. So if you guys are interested, first off, we are recording this presentation. So just a heads up that we will record it and we will have it available on Career Services website in the future if you guys miss anything, or to share with friends who might not be here today. So I wanted to give you a heads up about that. Additionally, if you guys have any questions throughout this presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat function. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be happy to have some time set aside to answer some of your questions that you might have about the career fair or anything related. And Carly might be able to chime in on some things too. So feel free to collect any questions as they go, and we'll try to address them at the end the best that we can. And if there's something that we can't answer right on the spot, we'll try to get back to you later. Okay, so to begin, let me jump in and kind of introduce the virtual career fair. So some of you all might have been to a career fair in the past in person, and just to kind of explain a little bit of the differences, our career fair, at least here at WVU, is going to be virtual and held through the Handshake platform, which I'm sure many of you all are very familiar with because we do a lot of talk in email communications and on campus about our Handshake platform. But it will be held through Handshake. So you can join in on Handshake through Career Services website if you're not familiar, and it will all be completely through that platform. And the cool thing, you know, before you might have gone to booths in person, they can be kind of chaotic. You know, if you're going to a career fair in person, it can be a little bit intimidating. But the cool thing about a virtual experience is it's in the comfort of your own home. And you're kind of in your own, you know, your own home court, right? And considering that it'll enable video kind of through what you've been doing right now, audio and text-based chat. And what that is just like typing. So kind of using like a chat feature through Handshake. But we'll jump into it and give you some more tips right now.
Okay, so what to expect a little bit about virtual career fair versus in person. One big difference is that, like Jessica said, you're going to be in the comfort of your own home. Also, you do need to be a little bit more prepared ahead of time. Typically, we always tell you to research companies online before you come, but you can come to a career fair and you might be surprised to see a company there that you didn't know was coming, and you could, you know, wait in the line to just walk up and talk to them at the career fair. In a virtual career fair environment, you can't do that. So you need to plan in advance and register register for both group sessions and one-on-one sessions. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the difference between them. The group sessions are about 30 minutes long, and they're open to up to 50 students. A lot of times that's going to be more like a general info session where you can learn about a company, learn how to get your foot in the door, those sorts of things. And then the other option are one-on-one sessions, and those are going to be 10 minutes long, and typically it's going to be just you one-on-one with the recruiter. And that's a great opportunity to talk about your elevator pitch, to, network with them and, really get that one-on-one attention, which you would typically stand in line at an in-person career fair for. We'll be talking more about those one-on-ones in a little bit with Carly, but I wanted to know, Carly, what can the students expect from group sessions?
Yes, so for group sessions, typically I'll kind of walk through what I do. The first 15 minutes will be mostly talking about our inside sales program. Again, I'm trying to recruit for sales, so therefore I'm going to talk mostly about what I do, our program, what to expect as an inside sales rep, how does it work, what's the day in the life like, and actually walk through that for the first half. And then for me, I usually open it up for the second half for question and answers. I know there's other folks who will take the whole 30 minutes and go through a presentation. There's other people who might not do any presentation at all, and it's mostly just, hand raisers asking questions or introducing themselves. So there's definitely, a wide range. So I would say come prepared even to the group interviews. Don't just sit back and relax and hide behind your computer. Be ready to participate if that, option presents itself.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I think that's all we'll say about that. I'll move on to our next one.
All right, so let's talk about some of the preparation. So it's really important. I think a lot of students don't realize not only do you have to register for the fair, register for the sessions. So you register for the fair, and then you also have to register for the sessions. But before doing all of that, you need to go in and set up your profile. It's really important to make sure it's 100% set up. And I think a lot of students don't take the time to do it properly or completely. I'm not going to read this entire slide to you all. I think you have the complete capability to do that, but I do want to point out a couple tips. One of the things being that Handshake pulls over information from WVU's system. And sometimes, I've gone in to meet with a student for a student appointment through Handshake to review their resume or something like that. And Handshake will say, oh, they're a senior. And I go to meet with them and they're actually an alumni. And, the information is not correct. So it's really important for you all to go in and check your profile and make sure that it's set to the correct graduation date or graduation year. Because, employers are seeing this, and if they don't know that it's correct, they might not be hiring, they might not consider you for the right position or something like that. So that's super important. Another thing that I want to tip you off about is, to do all of the features in the career fair, you have to go to your settings and make sure that it's set to community, the community in privacy in your settings. So you want to go to that and make sure that your profile is not set to private. You want to set it to community function. So that way you can participate in the fair and make sure that employers can see your profile and see all the capabilities so you can participate in the fair and see your profile. So you're going to need to go in and do it and make sure everything's set up correctly. Other than that, make sure your profile is completely 100% filled out. So you don't want to just leave it like, just having your name on it. Take the time and fill out the profile completely. There is something on Handshake that will say what percentage of your profile is complete, and it will tell you, and it will prompt you for all the sections. So make sure that you're, taking the time to invest in all that. Additionally, upload your resume. Make sure that's available for employers to see. So just take the time, sit down with it, and make sure that everything is completely filled out, accurate, up to date. Make sure your resume is updated. All those little things, while they might seem really intuitive and obvious, you'd be surprised how many other students don't really take the time to do that. Carly, does the Handshake profile matter to you? What are some things that you're looking for? Any other tips for them?
Yes, absolutely. It 100% matters. So first and foremost, the first thing people look at is your profile picture. That's going to tell us a lot about you, just in the sense, is it professional? Is it not? And when I say professional, I don't mean you have to have, go pay somebody money to take your headshot. Get a roommate, go against a white wall, something that's bland, that, get dressed up and put on business attire and have somebody take a professional looking photo of you. I don't want to see pictures that you cropped out from some night at the bar. Yes, have fun at the bar. Go ahead. I don't want that when I'm interviewing you. Make sure that it's not a crazy picture of you doing something silly. I want to see a professional looking photo of you. Anything else is very distracting. So that's kind of strike one if it's not professional. So picture is an absolute must. After that, just to kind of reiterate some of the things that Jessica said, fill out your profile. And the reason I say that from a recruiter standpoint is that shows you care. I want to know that you care about your job after college or your internship that you're applying for. Are you going to give it your all? And if you don't take the time or 5 minutes that it takes to copy and paste your resume into some of your profile, that shows me you're lazy and that you don't really care that much about what you're presenting or, how you're branding yourself. So absolutely fill it out. And one other note on that too is, as a recruiter, I might set, restrictions for my one-on-one saying I'm only interviewing juniors and seniors. And to Jessica's point, if you don't have that in there, you might not be able to set up an interview with me. So it's really, really important to make sure that you have everything filled out. You show your detail orientedness. You show that you're ready for that next job, and make sure it's all professional.
Thanks for that input. As you were saying that, I had another thought as well. If you have your settings set to community, which you will need to participate in the fair, while you're looking for jobs, employers are on there looking for the best fit for their position too. So you never know who might be looking at your profile too. You're on there looking for a job, they're looking for you. So you want everything to be perfect, because they might be, it goes both ways, so they might be on there looking for you. Even if you're not applying to that job, someone might come across your profile too, even if you're not necessarily applying to it. So keep in mind that someone could stumble upon, an employer could very well stumble upon your profile, which could be, I'm not saying it happens a lot, but it could be a really good chance for you. So just another note on that, but let's move on.
Okay, so sorry, technical error. Okay, next slide. Okay, so how to find virtual fairs on Handshake. I'm actually going to take us away from the presentation for a second, because I'm going to show you how just like LinkedIn may make recommendations of who you might need to connect with, or different connections. Handshake makes recommendations as well. And so I want to show you a few things about how to navigate around on Handshake. So bear with me. I'm going to do a new screen share. All right, can everybody see it? Okay, good. So first, this is what your student profile will look like. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see where some of these recommendations start to pop up. Popular in your major, recommendations based on your activity, and jobs that are going to expire soon. So you'll want to get your applications in. In particular, so that's some events come up on the bottom, but click on the events tab over here. And I'm actually already registered for all of our career fairs, so it doesn't show up exactly how it would for you if you're not registered yet, but over here will be your schedule when you are registered. But to look at career fairs or any other events, you can narrow down up here at the top. So you can click on the career fair. These are all the events that we have coming up. We're talking about the Wvu Career Fair, so I'm actually going to click on that. And then this will bring you to the events page. And on here, you can, once you're registered, if you're not registered, you actually won't be able to see this, but you will actually be able to see all of the employers that have sessions open. And you'll see that, there's group sessions right here with Carly, and then there's different group sessions and one-on-ones, but they are all listed on here with our employers. We have 74 employers coming right now. And say there's one employer in particular you want to follow. It's not working. I don't know why that's not working. It worked for me earlier. Jess, you're muted. Jess is my helper.
Scroll down to another employer and give it a try. Yeah. Scroll down. It might be because you're in available sessions. So go up to the top.
Okay.
Career fair details. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so when you go into the career fair details, you can actually, oh, we're up to 76, 2 more registered. So this is where you can actually follow the employers. And so you click on follow, and then what'll happen is Handshake will send you notifications depending on your preferences and about whenever they update anything. And you'll be able to see what events that they're coming to. And so you'll actually, this was not intuitive for me. I had to learn. I wanted to click on the name. If you click on their icon, that's what I was trying to do on the last page. It will actually take you to the page. And on the bottom is where you can see what events that they are going to be attending in the future. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to show you. Let me share back over to our PowerPoint.
Thanks,
Okay.
Danica.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are some good tips and kind of how to navigate that really quickly in a nutshell. And we do have a mock career fair coming up. If you want to kind of try it out and test it out on our events page, you can check out how what our events are and how they work. But yeah, those are kind of in a nutshell, but you want to make sure to register in advance and also keep checking for those sessions. So sometimes employers don't have their sessions set up right away when they register. So you saw that we have 76 employers that are coming to the fair. You might not be able to register for a session just yet for all those employers. Maybe an employer is there and maybe they don't have all their session slots set up yet. So you want to follow that company and you'll get notifications when things are set up for them. But keep checking back, keep coming back and checking if they don't have things available yet. That doesn't mean that they're full yet necessarily. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to set up a session. Don't get discouraged by that. Keep checking in. All right. So let's take a look at some details a little bit more in depth. And Carly's going to chime in a lot more on this section, so you'll get some more recruiter background on it. But before I do, let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about the preparation part. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the information is on you. You've got to do a lot beforehand. So it's not just registering, it's not just signing up for those slots. You know, our recruiters can really tell the difference when a student shows up and they're not prepared or they haven't done a lot. You know, if you just show up with your resume and you just start talking to them and, you know, you just kind of wing it, there's a big difference between that student and then a student who has done a lot of research about the company and who's really, really, really invested. So you really need to take a lot of time in advance to set yourself up for the fair. You don't want to just show up. So let's talk about researching. So we just went through how to find out who's attending. You sign up for the fair, you register for the sessions, you do the back information on their website, all of that. But you really need to research the job description. You need to research the company a little bit more. So, you know, some ideas for that. I think a lot of students go to the company's website, but there are some places that you can go in addition to that. Some of those places might include glassdoor.com. They might include the company's website. They might include recent news articles about the company. They might include the company's social media. So following those, Carly, I would really like to hear from you. Where do you think, you know, these students that are really prepared and they really show that they're prepared, where would you recommend, for example, if a student was really interested in working for your company, where would you recommend that they would do some background research on your company?
Absolutely. And a couple of them you already hit on. So first and foremost, you obviously have to go to the company website, scroll around for a few minutes, check out the company values, check out, you know, what the company is all about, especially if it's not as well known of a company, and get a really good sense and feel for what the company stands for, what they do, etc. Granted, don't spend too much time on the company website. You're really applying for a certain job at that company. So the one thing I always recommend is go to LinkedIn. We have this awesome tool at our disposal that gives you insight to the person you are going to interview with. So I would say if you're interviewing with me, Go to my LinkedIn. What have I posted recently? Did I post about my team? Can you reference that on our interview? If I just posted a picture of us, volunteering at a food bank and say, hey, I saw that on your LinkedIn. That's really cool. So get to know the person you're about to interview with. See what their team's like. See if you have connections with them. Maybe you know somebody they know. See who's in their department doing that job. Maybe that's somebody you can connect with pre-interview if you have enough time, or post-interview if the interview went really well and you want to learn more about what it's actually like to work for that person or in that department or at that company. So LinkedIn, I'd say, is probably your best friend in this scenario to get insight on the job and the person. But company website, obviously, Glassdoor is huge, but LinkedIn is my number one go-to for this situation.
Perfect. So I always tell students also to, line up the job description and come up with examples from their experiences, their resume, make sure to have talking points ready to go. So that's that last bullet right there. Have those talking points, be prepared to talk about them, match things up, and be ready, be prepared. Thanks, Carly. Those are some really good tips. Danica, do you have any others?
No, I think that you guys covered it.
All right.
Perfect. Well, I guess I can take over from here. So from a recruiting standpoint, obviously the first thing most people do is give an elevator pitch. And before I even go into what the elevator pitch should actually look like, the number one thing I look for when folks come up to my table, when it's an in-person event or virtually, is confidence. Like, not cockiness. I don't want you to be overly, cocky. I want to see that you practiced, you rehearsed, you are, good to go. You feel really confident in yourself when you start speaking to me. So that is number one by far. 1B, I'll say right below that, is your body language, right? And it's really probably even more important virtually, just as it is in person. I want to make sure you have a good presence about you on your screen. Don't be way back here. Don't be up here like your grandma on Zoom, right? Like, have a good presence about you. That's, again, very professional. So those are two first things right off the bat from virtual interviews I'm going to look for, no matter what words come out of your mouth. That said, all right, now you're starting to talk. What are you saying? That is also very important, right? So what is an elevator pitch? It should be very short and sweet. I do not want you to go on for 10 minutes about everything you've done in your life, right? It should be very high level, and you should go over a couple of bullet points, I'll call them, about some of your experience. And that's really it. You should really be about 1 minute, maybe a little bit over in length. But again, I just want to know you in a nutshell, so to speak. So when you introduce yourself, you should obviously give your name. You should give the year in school you're in. That's usually very important to recruiters. You're a junior or a senior or a master student, whatever it may be. Again, your experience, right? So that's that bullet point section. So say you had 3 internships throughout school. Cool. Give me a bullet point on each, no more than a sentence or 2 when you're actually speaking about it. And then, you want to tell the employer what you're looking to gain out of this conversation. Are you hoping for an interview where you can ask, like, hey, what are next steps in your process? How can I submit my resume to you to officially apply? So you want to make sure, whatever your goal is, you express that and close with a question. One thing I hate is when somebody does their whole elevator pitch and then just stop talking. And I'm like, okay, cool. Right? You want to actually engage them with conversation. So always end with a question, even if it's just a question you had prepared for the company as well. So elevator pitches are not that difficult. You're really just talking about yourself. But again, the biggest piece of this is to practice. It's so much easier when you know what you're about to say and have done it a few times versus trying to wing it or just ramble on. Have your thought process, have your bullet points, practice in the mirror. I always did that when I was going to career fairs. I'd give myself the speech in the mirror 20 times over. And again, part of that, you are virtual. Do not read off your computer. So if I say practice, you don't need to type out a whole elevator pitch and read it verbatim. I can see your eyeballs moving back and forth on the screen. It also sounds like you're reading something. So just be natural, but have practiced it enough times to make sure that you feel confident and it comes across well rehearsed and you're not saying all the ums and ahs and whatnot as well. So elevator pitch in a nutshell right there.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to mention the reading off the screen, and that's definitely something we can tell. And another tip that sometimes I share with students is if you are nervous about, for example, me personally, being on the camera, I'm a lot more nervous this way than I am in person with people. I'm a people person. And so I've told students to actually take a picture and tape it behind their camera of someone that they're comfortable with, maybe not too comfortable with, but like someone that they're comfortable with that might help them feel more comfortable, and pretend like they're talking to that person. That works for interviews as well.
I like that tip.
Presentation.
A good one.
Okay, on the day.
So on the actual day of the career fair, first thing you have to do is really just get mentally prepared. So I just said I would practice my elevator pitch in the mirror. You better believe I was also giving myself a pep talk, getting myself ready to go. It's nerve-wracking, right? You're trying to get in front of future employers. What if it's a dream job you've always thought of? It is a little nerve-wracking. So you want to make sure that you are confident. Again, going back to that piece, it's really important. So whatever you do to get yourself ready, make sure you do it and you're not just opening up your computer for the first time 2 minutes before you're supposed to get on. So first thing, get mentally prepared. Second thing is make sure you've tested your computer. Is your Wi-Fi spotty in the part of the house you're in? Make sure you're in a spot where you have really good lighting and it's not, pitch black or whatever, or too bright where you're washed out. So make sure you're in a spot with good lighting, a quiet space as well. So, if you have pets or something like that, make sure that they're put away if possible. Now, I will say you can't stop every dog from barking. My dog has definitely barked on a ton of my meetings, and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. There's only so many spaces I can put him. And there's, my boyfriend's at work during the day. There's nobody who can stop him if he goes off. So I will say we completely understand. We're all humans, but if you can stop it, definitely do it. If there's tell your roommates you have an interview coming up. Tell them to be quiet if possible, well in advance of the day, or remind them the morning of, or maybe they can watch your pet, whatever it is. Again, make sure you're setting yourself up for success in the space that you've given yourself. One thing that goes along with that is your phone. Don't use your phone to do the interviews if possible. If you don't have a computer, obviously it's better than nothing, but it can be very shaky, right? It's not the most stable thing. It's a little bit harder for the interviewer. They get distracted by it. And part 2 of your phone is just put it away if possible. The worst thing is if you get like a group text going on and all of a sudden your phone's buzzing and dinging. Not fun. That's also distracting. So either just turn it off or just put it away. It's also very tempting when it's in front of you to look down at it if the screen lights up. So again, put it away if possible. On top of that, when you do have your computer, make sure it's in a steady place. So it's on a table versus if you have it up and holding it, right? So make sure it's steady. Again, the whole moral of the story is we're trying to eliminate distractions as much as possible. Finally, again, very important is what you're dressed up as, right? Again, you're here for an interview. Be business professional. I think it's very easy for us when we're working from home or schooling at home to, stay in your sweats or, oh, I don't really have to put on a suit, do I? Like, no, it's fine. I'm working from home. No, you're here to impress. Like, put your best self forward. Some people might not care if you're in a suit, but guess what? If somebody does, you're only hurting your chances. Nobody is gonna, say, I can't believe he wore a suit to that. Like, how dare he? No. Always set up for success. Always dress the part. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And right now you don't have a job. So dress for the job. So that's super important. And again, if you don't have to have anything fancy, but again, be business professional as much as you possibly can. Last thing I'll touch on, and then Jessica, Danica chime in if there's anything else, is in terms of your setup, your background. Again, make sure it's minimal distractions. You don't need to have a virtual background. If you want to have one, great. Again, make sure it's professional, similar to what Danica has right now. That's very professional, and it's your school. So that would be an awesome background to have if you don't have any place in your house or apartment that, looks good. Put a professional virtual background on. If not, you definitely don't need one. But again, you don't want too many distractions behind you. If you're in your bedroom, make sure you make your bed. Again, like the little things matter. So make sure your background is very undistracting and professional as well. So I know I just rambled. Danica or Jessica, anything else on day of that you guys want to chime in on?
I thought you did a great job, but I'd like to reiterate, I think that, dressing up, not only is that something good, because I love some of the things that you said, no one will ever hate you for wearing a suit, but you never know when someone might ask to see your full wear. But additionally, what does that do for your self-confidence? I perform better when I'm wearing the full shoes, when I'm dressed nicer too, instead of when I'm wearing, some frumpy clothes per se. Additionally, the great thing about working virtually, I tell people, like, I will wear perfume or something like that. Now, I would never recommend that for a real in-person interview, but if it's a virtual interview or something like that, wear the cologne, wear the perfume, do what's going to boost you up, like whatever is going to help you perform better, whatever is going to, get you going. Some of those things set yourself up for success. So there are some things in a virtual environment that you can do that you cannot do in a real interview situation. So things like that might be of helpful. And for the background, my background's a little bit busy, I would say. They might say, oh, what are those books in the background? What's the picture? And when you only have 10 minutes talking to someone, you want them to focus on your experience and meeting you and talking about things. And, some of that might be good for small talk, but consider, let's get down to, talking about things. And the biggest thing is you really want to make a connection. That's the most important thing, making an authentic connection, not this rehearsed, whole like, oh, this is me and this is my story. And, I have to get through these talk. You really want to make a connection with the person. You want to get your experiences across, but really just keep that in mind when you're setting up your space. You want to have something clear, just set yourself up for success.
That's an awesome point. It actually reminded me one other note about your background too, or just even things that you have on you, such as, like, I have this water bottle I keep drinking out of because as I talk a lot, I need water. Know who you're interviewing with. What's the company? If you're interviewing for Coca-Cola, don't have a Pepsi product in the vicinity, right? If you're interviewing with me at Monumental, we're the Wizards and Capitals. Don't have a LA Lakers flag behind you in the background. Yeah, it's cool. It shows you're a sports fan, but know the job you're applying for as well, and make sure that nothing contradicts the job you're going for. Danica, anything on your end before we keep chugging along?
No, that's great. You guys, you hit them all. I didn't even think about some of those things. That's awesome.
All right. So during the actual virtual career fair. So first and foremost, I always say if you're on time, you're late. So moral of the story, be early. I would say about 5 minutes early is good for virtual setting. If you're in person, I always say 15 minutes early, right? Because you can wait in the lobby. You want to make sure that you give yourself enough time that if you get lost going somewhere or whatever it is for an interview, virtually, you don't want to be too early, because then it's kind of weird that you're, just chilling there. So 5 minutes is an acceptable time, I would say. If you're coming from another interview and you had a 10-minute slot back to another 10-minute slot, that's okay. Obviously take the full 10 minutes with the other folks. Just, try not to let it run too long, because then you're going to put a bad taste in the second person's mouth. So that's important. On top of that, you only have 10 minutes, so you don't want to miss out on valuable time. 10 minutes goes really, really, really fast. So again, impression is key, and being late is not a good way to make a first impression. Again, put the phone away. I think that's a really important thing. It's super easy to get distracted when you're not sitting face to face with the person. Virtually, I'm like, oh, dog, oh, squirrel, oh, helicopter, right? So try to do your best to stay engaged, be active, be listening, take notes if you're asking them questions and they're, giving you answers and whatnot. I think that's super important. Again, I can see if you're, if I switch back and forth between email or something, you can very much read somebody on the other end of a screen. So don't take it for granted that you're at home. Again, be engaged. Questions. This is a huge part of one-on-ones, right? So again, 10 minutes, super short. I might ask you a question as a recruiter. Don't take the full 10 minutes to answer it, because then that just shows me you're, not aware of the time. You might be rambling on. I didn't get to the other questions I want to ask you, and you didn't get to the questions you want to ask me. So I think it's important to be aware of the time as well. On the flip side of the questions, sometimes I like to do reverse interviews, what I call them in these one-on-ones. And that's where I say, okay, we only have 10 minutes. What questions you got for me? And, you want to make sure that you come prepared with questions. And again, show that you're engaged, right? And be genuine about your questions. I hate when people come on and, if I do that, or even just at the end of a normal interview where you always ask questions, when somebody says, okay, like tell me about, I really loved Monumental's values. What do those values mean to you, and how do you embody them? Like, okay, cool. I'm happy to answer that. And if that is one of your questions, fine. But I want to know you did your research about the job you're applying for. So again, with me, I'm in the sales department. I'm overseeing sales. I want you to come in and ask like, hey, what's the day in a life look like? What are your expectations of me when I joined this role? I was curious, with the Wizards and Caps, will I be working all the games, or how does that work? Like, show your interest and be genuine in the questions you're going to ask. I always say ask questions that say you already had the job offer you would want to know in order to accept that job. So again, be genuine, ask about the person, the job. Again, you can have a company question in there, but don't have it all be about just, high level, stuff along those lines. So, and again, I already said this, but take notes. I think that's important too. And that kind of actually leads me into a note about our next slide with the day after, but I'll pause really quickly if anybody had anything else to say about during.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was just going to switch the slide and say, go for it, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Those notes, they come in handy.
Perfect. Yes. So taking notes is key. In theory, you will have met with a bunch of different employers, learned about a bunch of different companies. And sometimes when you meet with that many people in that short amount of time, things get jumbled, right? So you want to make sure, oh yeah, that employer said, this is what this program looks like. And this employer talked about these benefits, whatever it may be, take notes for yourself. But also the day after, your job is not over yet. You need to reach out to the employer and to say, thank you for meeting with me, right? So in that email, again, going back to the importance of taking notes, you should reference something that you guys talked about. So just as I said, things might get jumbled for you. Things might get jumbled for the recruiter. And I'm definitely guilty of it sometimes too. Like, oh, I really like that girl, but I don't remember her name, right? So reference like, hey, we talked about how we're actually both from Boston. I'm from Massachusetts, right? So, hey, we talked about how we're both from just outside of Boston. Or, hey, we just talked about how we both grew up playing softball. Or, whatever connection it is, no matter how small, reference it. And that will go very far from the recruiter standpoint. A, just remembering who you are, and B, bringing them back to the conversation, and also shows you were engaged and listening to them. So super important to take notes. But again, I said the job's not done yet. And there's my dog. See, everybody, like it happens, but we'll move on. So with the job not being done yet, I would say the thank you email or note, whatever it is, might be the most important part of the whole interview process, especially for me in sales. I almost use that as a test. So when I'm hiring for a sales role, I need people to be able to reach out, follow up with people, engage, stay connected over a long period of time. Somebody's not willing to shoot me a quick 2-sentence email, the day after I just spent an hour with them on the phone or virtually or whatever it is, like that's a strike in my opinion. So absolutely always email. Similar to what I said before about dress. Nobody's ever going to say like, oh, this email, he's thanking me. How dare they, right? But but they might on the flip side say, they're not getting the job. I really like them, but they didn't want to follow up with me. So absolutely, it's a must. You must send a thank you email. One quick note, I will say, typically I'd always say do a thank you email and a thank you note. But in this time right now, a lot of folks are working from home. They might not be in the office. They might not get the thank you note. So right now, I would say it's not necessary to actually do a handwritten note, but it is 100% necessary to do that thank you email. Other than that, oh, and the dog's going crazy, and this is what we're talking about. It's okay. So last thing, LinkedIn connection too. Absolutely follow up with them on LinkedIn, send them a connection, and in that note portion of it as well, make sure you go ahead and just, again, reference the conversation, actually write something so they know who, hey, I met you at the University of West Virginia's career fair. It was great getting to know you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to connecting, or whatever it may be. And then last piece of advice for after, obviously you sent the thank you note. Typically you'd kind of wait to hear back what next steps are if you didn't ask in the interview. Now, a lot of places may not necessarily be hiring. They might be at the career fair and are expecting to hire in a couple months from now, but might not have a job posting right now. So again, it's not on the employer to reach out to you every time. It's on you. You're the one looking for the job. So make sure, say that you're really interested in somebody right now, go ahead, send them a thank you note. And then in another month from now, send them another note saying like, hey, just wanted to reconnect. I'm still super interested, whatever you want that note to look like. And again, another month after that until they get, finally can give you an update on when they're going to hire. So that's important right now versus, whatever the post-COVID world hopefully looks like sooner than later. But again, very, very important to make sure you do your part after the career fair as well as during.
Only thing I have to add is if you talk to a recruiter and they give you directions like, go on our website and fill out your profile and turn in your application there. Don't think that that's a blow off or them, saying, yeah, I'm not really interested in you, go this way. That is them telling you this is how you apply. So go and do it because that's how their steps are for the application process. So if they give you directions, make sure you follow up on that because that's a good indication to them of what type of employee you might be, how well you follow those directions. That's the only other thing I had. Jess, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Carly did a great job answering some of the questions that I might have asked her about. I know when I was a student personally, I don't know about some of you, I know my mom would tell me like, oh, make sure to do a follow-up thank you note, after an interview. And I was like, Mom, that is such brown nosing. Come on. What I didn't realize is that is professional etiquette. So I think if anything comes through, make sure that if you take anything away from this to always do that, this is what is expected of you. And especially after the career fair, keep that conversation going. Treat it like a mini interview. So I hope you all take that away today.
So that brings us to our last slide. So this is a list of all of the career fairs that we have coming up, as well as Jessica mentioned the mock career fair that we have, let me see, next Thursday, the 11th. And that's where you can actually sign up and just practice getting registered for one-to-ones, navigating between a couple of different ones, and just seeing how that goes so that you can kind of eliminate anything that might get you flustered on the day of the career fair. We wanted to host that for you. And
additionally, if you check out our website, we have some prep events where you might be able to get your resume reviewed with us from Career Services and things like that. So, if you're interested in any of the other events, make sure to check those out on our website too. All right, so, checking the chat, I didn't see many questions throughout the presentation, so we'll open it up right now. If you all have any questions, let's see what you got.
Hey, Carly.
Hello.
Hey, this is Caroline McKelvey. I am actually a faculty member in the WVU Tech Beckley campus, and I have several of my senior sport management students on this webinar presentation today. I can't see from the faculty side on my Handshake account, but do you guys have a special session for Monumental Sports? I thought I saw it earlier in the presentation, but I couldn't quite see what those dates were.
Yeah, of course. So during the career fair, I'll be on the career fair for the day. So I think I have a 3 group sessions set up,
Yeah.
and as well as a few one-on-ones. So I will be presenting mostly on the inside sales team, so our entry-level sales roles. Again, we actually are in the situation where we're not hiring right now. We are on a hiring freeze, but I have open roles, so I know whenever that freeze lifts, I will 110% be hiring, and I'm going through the process right now. I am interviewing, so that way, whenever we get the green light, my decisions are already made. So absolutely, you know, anybody who's interested in sales that's on here, by all means, come meet with me at the career fair, sign up for one of our sessions. And then if anybody has questions about other opportunities at Monumental, I'm happy to answer as much as I can about other departments. Obviously, my bread and butter is in the revenue generating world. So sales and service, corporate partnerships, premium seating, et cetera. But happy to help answer or point them in the right direction if anybody has questions about other opportunities.
Awesome. And Jessica, what date will that be, that career fair? Was it 24th, 20?
It's the 25th.
25th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Career and internship fairs from 11 to 3 on February 25th.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carly.
Of course.
Got one in the chat. Where will the recording of this session be posted? Very good question, Logan. We are not sure yet.
It will definitely be hosted on Career Services website. I'm not exactly sure. Someone in our office will probably be posting it, probably on there. Okay, our multimedia specialist is on. It will also be emailed to the attendees. So you're in luck, Logan. You will have it emailed directly to you.
Thanks, Allie.
All right, any other questions?
I have a quick question actually. So regarding following up with people, how if like in the interview, if they don't give you their email, or how would you get the email from them or the address to send a handwritten letter?
Yeah, absolutely. Ask for it. Have the confidence, and at the end of the phone, you know, at the end of the conversation, make sure you have 30 seconds left and say, "Hey, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I'd love to send you a follow-up note. Could I have your email address? I couldn't find it on Handshake," or whatever it is. Or just say, "Hey, can I have it?" You don't even have to explain why. Absolutely, they should be giving it to you. If not, there's probably a reason, but definitely just ask for it. And then for a handwritten note, generally it will be in the signature of their email. So if you do email back and forth with them, you'll be able to find it. Or again, just ask for sure. But I don't think there's any harm in asking whatsoever.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions for Carly while we have her on here?
Carly, I just want to, as a faculty member on the Beckley campus, I just want to thank you. It's kind of refreshing to hear for someone who's actually in the field doing this, and we can tell our students till we're blue in the face, but to have someone come from someone like you, I think it definitely helps to portray exactly what we're doing with our students. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for having me. I love doing this stuff. I love connecting with students. I mean, I was in your guys' shoes too. I think sometimes you forget that, you know, the people on the other side of the table or the other side of the screen or phone call or whatever it is, you know, they're these big, scary executives or, you know, folks that have the job you want someday. Everybody, you know, everybody was in your shoes once. Everybody was looking for their first job. Everybody remembers that, right? Or at least you'd hope so. So, you know, 100%, I love giving back. I love talking to you guys. If anybody has questions, I'll actually go ahead and drop my email in the chat too. If anybody wants to continue the conversation or has a question that didn't get answered here, I'm always happy to, go back and forth via email, or if it's a bunch of questions, we can hop on a phone call too. But thank you guys for having me. I love this stuff, so I appreciate the invite.
Yes, and we appreciate the faculty support as well and all the students that have come on today. So thanks for your time and sharing this with us. All right, so that'll conclude for today, and we will hang back a little bit longer if anybody has some individual questions that they would like to ask us. And Carly just dropped her email in the chat function right there if anybody needs it. And of course, at Career Services, if you need us, our email is right up there, and you can connect with Danica or I through that email as well. All right, well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we hope that you guys take care, and we look forward to seeing you all at the Career Fair. Take care.